What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'm doing my updated 2022 silly season predictions. Let's go and just jump straight into those very quickly. We're going to start off with Starcom Racing and the 00 car. Now, I thought a couple months ago that there was potential that there was going to be change in this 00 car, and I thought maybe a driver like Brendan Poole or Landon Castle was potentially going to drive this 00 car. But I've overall changed my mind on that. I think Quinn Houff is going to be back in the 00 car for the 2022 season. And the reason I think is, one, I think he brings a lot of funding to the team, and I don't think that they're going to want to change up that group they've had over the last couple years. I know that this year and the last year, Quinn Houff has absolutely struggled. He's not been at the pace compared to what Landon Castle had done for the last couple years, but I don't think they're going to want to break up that core at Starcom Racing, and I think Quinn Houff will be back in the 00 car in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 2 car for Team Penske. Now, this one has already been confirmed for the 2022 season, as Austin Cindric is going to be driving a 2 car full-time for the 2022 season. This move overall is going to make a lot of sense for Team Penske. Of course, Austin Cindric is the son of Tim Cindric, who's currently the president and competition director at Team Penske at the moment. Also has won the 2020 NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship and is on the way to potentially defend that championship in 2021, and has shown a lot of speed in his select NASCAR Cup Series race on the road courses. I think he'll be very fast on the road courses, super speedways. I'm a little worried about his intermediate status for 2022, but I do think that Austin is going to bring a lot to the table in the 2022 season, and I'm really excited about this for sure. Up next, we're going to talk about the 3 car for Richard Childress Racing. Now, I don't think there's going to be any changes at Richard Childress Racing for the number 3 car next year. I think Austin will be back in the number 3 car for RCR in the 2022 season. Austin Dillon being, of course, the grandson of Richard Childress of RCR, of Richard Childress. He's been really good with RCR up to this point so far. I mean, he's been really consistent. He's right now currently sitting outside the playoffs at that team at the moment, but I do think in 2022 he'll be back at the team, especially with this team resetting with the next-gen car, and of course being a team that was one of the designers of the next-gen car. I do think that they are going to be very successful, and Austin will be back at the 3 car full-time in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the 4 car for Stuart Haas Racing. There's going to be no changes at this car as well. Kevin Harvick will be back in the 4 car in 2022. Now, there have been rumors going around that Kevin Harvick was going to leave this team and go over and own JT Doherty Racing because Ryan Preece and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who both currently drive for JT Doherty Racing at the moment, are KHI managed drivers. But Kevin Harvick denied the rumors past week, said he had zero interest in buying JT Doherty Racing. He has 2 more years with SHR. Remember, his contract goes to the 2023 season. So there's going to be no changes here. Despite the rumors, Kevin Harvick will be back in the 4 car full-time in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This is going to be, in my opinion, well, it's already been confirmed, that this will be driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson this past Wednesday, as a matter of fact, signed a multi-year contract extension through the 2023 season with full backing for HendrickCars.com. Of course, with his incredible performance so far throughout this year, being currently second in the regular season points with 4 victories this year so far for Hendrick Motorsports, and has gotten a lot of exposure for HendrickCars.com and that partner in that branding as well. I think Kyle Larson is a driver that's going to do a lot of great things to come. I think he's a fantastic talent. He's done a lot of great things on and off the racetrack. He's done really good on dirt racing. He seems like he's pretty much winning in everything that he's been competitive in, and he's arguably one of the favorites to win the championship in 2021. And I think also next year in 2022, I think that he'll be very competitive. Up next, we're going to talk about the 6 car for Roush Fenway Racing. Now, it was just confirmed today, as a matter of fact, that Brad Keselowski is officially confirmed to drive the 6 car for Roush Fenway Racing as a co-owner / driver of the team. He will have minority ownership in the organization. He also will play an integral role in the competition side of things as well. I think Brad Keselowski is going to bring a lot to the table for Roush Fenway Racing this year. He's done absolutely incredible at Team Penske. His career over there has been phenomenal. He's gotten 34 career wins at Team Penske, including 35 career Cup Series victories, 34 Cummins, and Team Penske. He's won a lot of races in the Xfinity Series as well. There's a lot of reasons why this move is happening overall. The general manager for Roush, who currently was the general manager for BKR of Brad Keselowski Racing, is currently working over that organization. You had the feud between him and Joey Logano at Team Penske, and he's supposed to test the next-gen car on the day the next-gen car got revealed, but unfortunately, those plans got taken. Now, I do think the first year for Keselowski, he's going to be around a 16 contender. I don't think he's going to show a lot of speed. However, I do think he has a really good shot at potentially winning Daytona 500 this year. Roush has shown a lot of speed in the Daytona 500, and I overall do think that Brad Keselowski will drive in the 6 car full-time, and it's already been confirmed they will drive the 6 car full-time in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 7 car for Spire Motorsports. It was confirmed about a month ago that Corey LaJoie will be back in the 7 car for the 2022 season for Spire Motorsports. Spire Motorsports is going to be downsizing to a 1-car operation. They've taken the charter back from the number 99 for Trackhouse. They've taken that charter back, and they now own that ownership in a 1-car team. Corey LaJoie, I think, is a very, very solid driver. I think 2022, he's going to bring a lot to the table for this organization. He's done pretty decent so far. I just think that a lot of their issues have been their engine problems, and a lot of this could have been sorted out if there have been practice qualifying this year. But we've seen some speed out of the Spire Motorsports organization more than we originally see. Some top 20s have come out of that Spire Motorsports organization, and I do think that Corey LaJoie will bring a lot more light to that table for this team, and I think he'll do a great job at Spire Motorsports in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing. I expect, even though it's really unknown what's going on with RCR and their contracts for the number 8 car, I think that Tyler Reddick will be back in the number 8 car full-time in the 2022 season. Tyler Reddick is a very, very talented driver, and he gets the best out of his equipment. He currently sits in the playoffs right now in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's shown winning speed in some of these races, almost had a shot at winning Phoenix last year until he got into the outside wall, and almost made an incredible rebound at Homestead at Miami Speedway earlier this year, and to finish, I believe, second at Homestead. It was catching William Byron. He had one of the fastest cars in that race. I think Tyler Reddick is going to bring a lot to the table next year, and I think that he will 100% be back at RCR in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one we already know is confirmed. This will be driven by Chase Elliott for the 2022 season. Now, Chase Elliott's contract is up at the end of the 2022 season, but Rick Hendrick mentioned when they announced the extension for Kyle Larson that they are working on long-term contracts for not only Chase Elliott, but for William Byron as well. Now, I've been hearing behind the scenes that Chase Elliott, and they're working on a massive, massive contract for Chase Elliott at the moment, potentially a lifelong contract, but sponsorship is going to be the king thing. Now, Chase Elliott, of course, being the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series championship, I think that once again in 2022 will bring a lot of great things, especially with all the road courses, and he's like the king of road courses right now. I think he'll have some competition for Austin Center next year, but I think he's overall going to bring a lot to the table for that organization next year, and I think he'll do a lot of great things. Chase Elliott will be back in the 9 car for the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 10 car for Stuart Haas Racing. Now, this car is definitely interesting. Eric Almirola is currently a free agent at the end of this year, but I do think things have overall changed in regards to the 10 car for the 2022 season. I think Eric Almirola is going to be back at SHR. I think him winning this past weekend at New Hampshire, despite having a really bad year, I think him winning this past weekend at New Hampshire, I think is going to change a lot of things. I think Smithfield and them are going to be committed. I think that maybe there's a chance maybe Ryan Preece could go into the 10, but I think in 2022, with Eric rolling, I think that the plans have changed, and I think that Eric will be back in the 10 car full-time in 2022. I think it'll also be better in 2022. Him winning has changed it. I think the chances of someone taking over that 10 car other than Eric are very, very slim. I think Eric will be back in the 10 car full-time in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one has already been confirmed. It'll be Denny Hamlin who'll be driving the number 11. He signed a multi-year contract extension earlier this year. There are less races that FedEx is going to be sponsoring in the 2022 season. Despite that, Denny Hamlin has been extremely consistent. He's been with Joe Gibbs Racing since the beginning of his career, and you don't really want to break it up. It had been rumored a while back that he may leave Joe Gibbs Racing and go over and race in his own organization, but things have basically changed back in January when it had been announced that Denny Hamlin was going to be remaining with Joe Gibbs Racing. It makes a lot of sense considering the success he and Chris Gabehart, especially over the last couple years, have really had. You don't want to break up that bond. It's been working together extremely well. I think we know for sure that Denny Hamlin will be back in the 11 car full-time in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the 12 car for Team Penske. This one is already confirmed as well. This car will be driven by Ryan Blaney. Now, remember last year, having announced that Ryan Blaney has signed a multi-year contract extension with Team Penske. It is believed that Ryan Blaney has signed a 3-year extension with the team. There have been rumors that Ryan Blaney was going to leave Team Penske and go over to Stuart Haas Racing or replace Kevin Harvick in the number 4 car, because apparently Ronnie Childers would like to work with Ryan Blaney. Apparently there have been also rumors that Ronnie Childers, Kevin Harvick had a lot of tension, but those rumors basically got denied, and Ryan Blaney will be back with this team through the 2023 season. I think Ryan Blaney's a very, very solid driver. I think he's going to bring a lot to the table again next year. He's been very solid so far in the 2021 season, and I think in 2022, he is going to continue to bring a lot of great things to the table for the Team Penske Corporation. Up next, we're going to talk about the 13 car for Mbm Motorsports. Now, Mbm Motorsports is really don't know what their plans are going to be for the 2022 season. However, I do think that Mbm Motorsports is actually, at least for the Daytona 500 and maybe a couple other races, they're going to attempt to run 2 cars next year. And I think that they're going to bring the 13 car back, and I think that this car is going to be driven by Garrett Smithley. Garrett Smithley attempted to race for this team back in Daytona 500, make it Daytona 500. He actually almost ended up making it. Unfortunately, he ended up getting involved in a wreck late in the race. Unfortunately, also took Noah Gragson out of an opportunity to race in this. But I do think that if they are able to make both races, both their cars are able to make it, I think the 13 car will be able to running quite a few more races with Garrett Smithley behind the wheel. Maybe you'll see Chad Fitch, a motor driver, go in that car. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that Garrett Smithley will be back in the 13 car full-time in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 14 car for Stuart Haas Racing. While the driver has not been confirmed at this moment, I think Chase Briscoe 100% will be back at Stuart Haas Racing. Chase Briscoe has been in the Ford development camp since around 2015, 2016. He's been very, very successful. I know this year absolutely has not gone fantastic for Chase Briscoe throughout the year, but I think that he'll get better in the 2020 season. He's been definitely showing a little bit of signs of improvement throughout the year, and I think we 100% will see Chase Briscoe back in the 14 car. I think he'll be doing back in that car next year. Up next, we're going to talk about the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing. Now, just an emphasis, I think Rick Ware Racing is going to lose one of their charters for the 2022 season, and I think that they will downsize to a 3-car operation. But the first one is the 15 car. I think that this car is going to be driven by James Davison. James Davison has been with the Rick Ware Racing Camp for the last year or two, and he's supposed to run 26 out of 36 races here in the 2021 season. And I think he's been one of the better drivers so far at the Rick Ware Racing Camp. So to me, I think that James Davison is going to be back in the number 15 car for the 2022 season. And I think unlike being part-time this year, I think he goes full-time in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing. And this car has already been confirmed for the 2020 season. We know that Kaulig Racing is planning on running 2 cars in the 2022 season. One full-time and one that potentially could be part-time, but they could end up being full-time in the 2020 season. The full-time car is going to be driven by Justin Haley, who has a multi-year deal with this team going forward. Justin Haley has been driving for Kaulig Racing over the last couple of years. He was the first driver to drive for the team in the Cup Series back in 2020 last year, and they've been really successful so far this year in the Cup Series. They've shown a lot of promise and a lot of speed. Justin Haley, of course, has won 3 Xfinity Series races, all of us coming on super speedways, and I think that Kaulig Racing's road course program and their super speedway program is really, really good, and we will see Justin Haley in the 16 car in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 17 car for Rousham Raceway. Now, while this one has not 100% confirmed, I think that Chris Buescher will be back in the 17 car for the 2022 season. Chris Buescher has been really solid so far in 2021. He's been able to so far, while he has not been able to win, he showed a lot of speed at Homestead. He's been extremely consistent. And he's also been involved in the playoff battle here throughout the 2021 season. I know the last couple weeks have not gone great for him, but I think that as time goes on, especially with how good of a driver he is, I think he's going to bring a lot to this table for Rousham Racing as time goes on. It's also a rumor he may have a contract that goes through all the way through the 2024 season. It depends on the Fastenal sponsorship, but I don't think Chris Buescher is going to be leaving the team at the end of this year. I think Chris Buescher returns to Rousham Racing in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one surprised nobody. Kyle Busch will be driving an 18 car. Now, Kyle Busch actually, I believe, is going to be technically a free agent at the end of the 2022 season. However, I think Kyle Busch will sign another pretty long-term extension, and I think that he'll be with the team for a very, very long time. Of course, guy has won 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships, one coming in 2015 and one coming in 2019. I think Kyle Busch has also a very strong shot at potentially winning this year's championship and becoming a 3-time champion, all with JGR. He's been arguably the most successful driver at Joe Gibbs Racing ever, and I think that he'll bring a lot to the table once again next year, and he will be back at the team in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one also should surprise nobody. Mark Truex Jr. will be in the 19 car once again in 2022. Mark Truex Jr. signed at least a 1 or 2 year extension with JGR. I believe that his contract goes, I believe, for the 2022 season. So technically, he's also potentially going to be a free agent at the end of this upcoming season. However, Mark Truex Jr. has been really, really successful in the 2020 season, winning 3 races so far. In the last couple weeks have not been absolutely great for Mark Truex Jr., but I think he's going to continue to bring a lot to this team and bring a lot to the table, and I think we'll see Mark Truex Jr. We'll for sure see him back in this car in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. There's going to be no changes in this car as well. Christopher will be back in the 20 car. Christopher's been part of the Toyota development, and originally he was supposed to be with 2 years with Levine Family Racing, and in 1 year with Joe Gibbs Racing, and a 3-year Toyota deal. However, when Levine basically announced that they were going to be shutting down, they moved that over to 2 years with him. So he'll actually technically maybe be a free agent at the end of next year. But with Christopher Bell, how decent he's been so far this year, and potentially he could bring to go Joe Gibbs Racing long term, I don't think that they're going to get rid of him, and I think we will 100% see Christopher Bell in the 20 car full-time in the 2022 season. Next, we're going to talk about the number 21 car for Wood Brothers. This was confirmed this past Thursday on the day that Austin Cindric was announced that Harrison Burton is going to be driving a 21 car full-time for the 2022 season. The reason that this is happening is because of the sponsorship he has. He has Dex Imaging sponsorship, which is also part of the Team Penske Corporation. Now, Harrison Burton has had a decent season so far. Joe Gibbs Racing, well, a pretty good year so far at Joe Gibbs Racing. Last year in 2020, he got 4 victories for the team. So far this year, he's not been able to win. He's also not had as great of a year as he honestly could have, and I'm a little worried about his time as a rookie. I think it'll be a little bit worse than Matt Benedetto was in this year. However, I do think that Harrison Burton long-term could be a very successful driver, and I think eventually he'll end up end up at Stuart Haas eventually and go over there long-term. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 22 car for Team Penske. This car will be driven by Joey Logano. Joey Logano has been part of Team Penske since 2013. His contract does go through the 2023 season. We found that out about a month or 2 ago, so he's going to have at least 2 more years with the Team Penske. Joey Logano's been really, really successful. So far, he's won 1 race so far at Bristol Dirt, and he's been pretty consistent throughout the 2022 season. I think he has also a chance to potentially win a championship before he retires, and I think he'll also end up getting a longer-term extension with the team, and I think that he'll continue to bring a lot to the table for the Team Penske Corporation. Up next, driving the number 23 for 2311 Racing is going to be Bubba Wallace. This should be no surprise to anybody. Basically made this team around Bubba Wallace, where Bubba Wallace so far in 2021 hasn't absolutely had the greatest year so far for his standards. He wanted to win a couple races here, and I think for a first-year team on normal standards, I think it's been a decent year. I think they've shown some speed throughout the year. They could have a lot more top 10s than they honestly have at the moment, but the expectations for Bubba Wallace have not absolutely been great. But I think in 2022, I think this team will definitely improve. I think they'll have their stuff together more, and I think they'll contend for some more top 5s and more top 10s, and I think long-term this team will be more and more successful as time goes on. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This will be driven by William Byron. Now, William Byron's contract, it goes through this upcoming season. His contract ends at the end of the 2022 season. But, like I said, they're working on a contract extension for William Byron. I think William Byron will get a longer deal than he currently has, probably like the 2024-2025. So far, 2021, he has shown a ton of speed and has shown a ton of finesse as a driver. He's only won 1 race here, but he's been absolutely consistent. And I do think in 2022, I think he's going to continue that and prove that he should continue to be with this team long term. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 26 for GMS. I think that this is going to be the number that GMS is going to drive. Now, I'm going to be a little bit honestly controversial around this. Now, remember I mentioned Matt Benedetto is going to be a free agent because he is going to be a free agent at the end of this year. I don't know really other than maybe college racing. He could end up going there. But I think that Matt Benedetto is going to end up at GMS Racing in 2022. I don't really think there's going to be other places he can go. He still wants to remain in the Cup Series. And I know that Sheldon Creed and Zane Smith probably have to be the top priorities. But Sheldon Creed mentioned recently in an interview with Dave D. Siegel that he does not want to jump up to the Cup Series in 2022, and he wants to jump up to Xfinity. I think Zane Smith also wants to go that route. Now, he does bring funding, but I don't think he's going to just want to jump up the Cup. So I think they're going to choose a driver that's currently free agent, and I think that is going to be Matt Benedetto. They're basically going to be starting on clean feet, and I think Matt Benedetto will end up at GMS in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 29 for Roush Fenway Racing. Now, they did mention earlier today during the press conference that Roush mentioned that they potentially could go to 3 cars next year, and the 3rd car could be on a part-time basis. And they talked about Ryan Newman. Now, Ryan Newman did mention he may go out and explore some different rides potentially for the 2022 season. But I think that Ryan Newman is going to go back to Roush Fenway Racing on a part-time basis. I think Ryan Newman is going to end his full-time career, and I think Ryan Newman at least is going to attempt the Daytona 500 with the team. I think he's going to attempt Bristol Dirt and maybe a couple more races going down the road. But I think Ryan Newman will go part-time with Roush Fenway Racing in the 2020 season. I think that's what's going to go down for 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 32 for 23XI Racing. While the team is not 100% confirmed that they are expanding, it is expected that 23XI Racing is going to be expanding for the 2022 season. And currently the lead candidate for that is going to be Kurt Busch. And that's who I think is going to end up driving the number 32 for them. Kurt Busch, I think, will bring a lot to the table for this team in 2022. I think, of course, he's a championship caliber driver, and he gets the best out of his equipment. I mean, he ran for Chip Ganassi Racing this year and dominated Atlanta Motor Speed. We've not seen that from a Chip Ganassi car in many, many years, maybe since Kyle Larson won in 2019. So to me, he also brings that Monster Energy backing as well and that funding as well, which is what I think 23XI Racing is going to need for them to expand. They said they may go with or without a charter, so I think Kurt Busch will bring a lot to the table, and I think that he'll end up at 23XI Racing in 2022 and a second 23XI Racing car. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 34 for Mbm Motorsports. There's going to be no changes here. Michael Mcdowell will be back in the 34 car, in my honest opinion. And here's the reason why I think he's going to be back. He has said that he wants to remain with the Mbm Motorsports camp. Of course, Mbm has shown a lot more speed this year. Michael Mcdowell so far has 1 win coming in Daytona 500, but he also has 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s as well. And he's currently sitting 19th in the points, which is the best points position that Michael Mcdowell has ever been in so far in his NASCAR Cup Series career. And he wants to remain with this team long term. I think Mbm, with keeping Michael Mcdowell, of course, being one of the more veteran drivers in the sport, I think Michael Mcdowell will bring a lot to the table for this team. And I think that he'll be back with Mbm Motorsports in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 38 for Mbm Motorsports. I don't think there's going to be changes in this car as well. I think Anthony Alfredo is going to be driving the number 38 car full-time for Mbm Motorsports in 2022. I know they've had a lot of rotations in this number 38 car over the last couple of years, but I don't think anything's going to change in this because I think that Mbm is going to want to keep their team as it is. Anthony Alfredo, I think the longer he's been in the car, I think the better he's gotten. I know that he's wrecked quite a bit as a rookie, but I think it's a lot of his inexperience. And I think him having a full year of experience in the NASCAR Cup Series in this year, I think that he will long-term get better. And I think that he'll show a lot of speed. And I think that Anthony Alfredo will be in the 38 car in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 41 car for Stuart Haas Racing. I'm not expecting any changes here. I think Cole Custer will be back in the 41 car for Stuart Haas Racing. It's not been officially announced, but Cole Custer is the son of Joe Custer. And I don't know that the first couple years, despite his win at Kentucky, they've not been absolutely impressive. But I think the longer that he's in this series, I think the better that he is going to become. And I think that in 2022, Cole Custer will be back in the number 41 car for this team. And I think this team will also improve as well. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 42 car for Trackhouse Racing. I think that's the number they're going to choose for the second ride. They have potentially maybe take the 1 or the number 97. But I think that they're going to take the number 42. And I think that it is going to be the same driver who currently is driving the number 42 that's driving this ride. I think it's going to be Ross Chastain. Justin Marks basically said that the current favorite drivers that are currently in the running to go to the second Trackhouse ride are Ross Chastain and Kurt Busch. Now, I think Kurt Busch is going to end up at 23XI Racing, is currently the candidate there. So I think that they are going to choose Ross Chastain to keep in the organization as well, which I think is going to make a lot of sense for the team. I think Ross Chastain brings a lot to the table. I know that I don't think Daniel Suarez needs as much of a championship caliber driver as a driver like Bubba Wallace says. So to me, I think Ross Chastain is going to end up full-time in this organization in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 43 for Richard Petty Motorsports. While it's not 100% confirmed on what the plans are, I think that Richard Petty Motorsports overall will be making a major mistake if they got rid of Eric Jones. I think Eric Jones is a very solid driver. However, I do think that Richard Petty Motorsports is going to be making a change on their own, and I think that they are going to be switching over to Toyota in the 2022 season. It has been rumored for a while that Richard Petty Motorsports might be switching manufacturers for the 2022 season, and the main manufacturer that's been rumored since back at the beginning of the year has been a Toyota. Those rumors have kind of fallen a little bit under the radar over the last couple months, but I still think that Richard Petty Motorsports is going to be switching a new manufacturer, and I think that they're going to be keeping Eric Jones in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 47 for JTG Doherty Racing. Now, JT Doherty Racing is also potentially rumored, and from what I've heard, they might be switching over to Toyota in 2022. But I do think that they are going to keep their same driver in their organization, and that is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I think, is a very, very good driver. He has shown it throughout this year so far, what he's been able to accomplish as a race car driver, and I think he has a lot of speed and a lot of potential to keep doing a lot of great things with his team, and he's almost been a playoff contender throughout this year. And also continue a lot of great things as a race car driver in the NASCAR Cup Series, and I think he'll be a solid playoff contender, and he'll be back in the number 47 car in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. It was announced back in June that Alex Bowman is officially returning to Hendrick Motorsports for the 2020 season, and he has a contract through the 2023 season. So far in 2021, Alex Bowman has scored 3 victories this year, those coming at Richmond, Dover, and Pocono. And to me, I think it makes a lot of sense for Alex Bowman to be back at this team. He's done a lot of great things, and if he continues to impress like he's been doing, I think long-term, Alex Bowman will continue a lot of great things, and he'll be back in the 48 car full-time for Hendrick Motorsports in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 51 car for Rick Ware Racing. I've been thinking about who potentially could be a really good fit for this 51 car for Rick Ware Racing, and there's one driver that did really impressive at National Super Speedway. Now, of course, he has a lot of experience at National Super Speedway, but I think that this driver would fit the bill for a really solid driver full-time. I think J.J. Yeley's going to drive the 51 car full-time for Rick Ware Racing. In the starts that he's had with this team, he's been extremely impressive. He's having a pretty good career resurgence, and I think that he would do a lot better as a driver, and I think that he would make a lot of sense to put a number 51 car full-time. I think J.J. Yeley goes into 51 car full-time in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 52 car for Rick Ware Racing. Now, like I mentioned, I think that Rick Ware is going to downsize to a 3-car operation in the 2020 season. And I think the 52 car, instead of this being a full-time car, I think that this is going to be an operation and we're going to see multiple drivers drive this car. I think you'll see Josh Bilicki, Cody Ware, Joey Gase, and Garrett Smithley at points will share this car throughout the 2022 season. And the reason I say that these will be the drivers, this car will be the rotation car, is I think all these drivers in one car, they'll work together very, very well. A lot of them have driven full-time in the Cup Series before, and I think it'd make a lot of sense for them to have one rotation car to focus on 2 full-time cars and 1 rotation car. But I think Rick Ware downsizes the cars, and I think the 52 car becomes a rotation car. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 66, for Mbm Motorsports. This car, I think, once again in 2022, is going to be driven by Timmy Hill. Now, I do think the 66 car will make more starts than the number 13 car. I think that this 66 car will make starts at least a third of the starts in 2022. I think they'll definitely attempt the Daytona 500. It depends on if they're able to make the 500. Will depend on how many races this 66 car is going to race in 2022. But I think in 2022, Mbm Motorsports comes back, and I think that Timmy Hill will drive his car full-time in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about College Racing's second car. I think the number is going to be the number 77, and we will see AJ Allmendinger drive a few starts, at least all the road courses, and maybe some extra races in 2022. Now, Matt Collick did mention that potentially they could get a full-time driver, and that maybe if they have full-time sponsorship, they could come in. I do not think someone is going to be able to bring full-time funding, so I do think their second car is going to be a full-time car with multiple different drivers in the car like they did this year with this car. I think that for sure AJ Allmendinger, and we will see also Kaz Gralla drive this car next year. Other drivers, I'm not sure, but I think at least next year we will see AJ and Kaz Gralla drive this number 77 car next year in the 2022 season. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 78 for BJ McLeod Motorsports. If you want an honest opinion on BJ McLeod driving, I think BJ should focus on working as an owner of team, maybe run some Xfinity Series starts with a team, but I think he should focus on the ownership side of things. However, I don't think he's going to do that. I think that BJ McLeod is going to run a majority race in 2022. I do think he'll get a dirt ringer for Bristol Dirt, and I think he'll get some road course specialists that will drive his car in 2022. So I do think that we'll see BJ in his car, McLeod in his car full-time, his own car full-time next year. But I do think that we will see a random selection, decent selection of different drivers that will drive throughout the year in different sets of cars in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the number 96 car for Gaunt Brothers Racing. I think Gaunt Brothers Racing is actually going to increase the number of races, potentially almost go full-time in 2022. And I think that they are going to choose Brandon Jones to actually drive this car for pretty much the whole entire year in 2022. Now, the reason I think Brandon Jones will drive this car full-time, I think Brandon Jones is ready for the Cup Series. He's proven it so far in Xfinity Series. He's been definitely getting better as time has gone on. He's been in Xfinity Series for a very, very long time, since around 2014, 2015. And he has a lot of funding from the Menards and the Ream companies as well. And I think Gaunt Brothers, for them to go full-time, I think that they're going to need the funding to do that. So I think Brandon Jones is going to go full-time in the Cup Series and join the rookies of Austin Cindric, Harrison Burton, and maybe others that could be jumping up to the Cup Series, and Justin Haley as well, who are jumping up to the Cup Series. I think Brandon Jones will take the number 96 car for Gaunt Brothers Racing. And finally, we're going to talk about the number 99 for Trackhouse Racing, and this will be driven by Daniel Suarez. This is already confirmed in the press release that Daniel Suarez will be driving the number 99 car full-time in 2022 with Daniel Suarez in the car. Daniel Suarez has absolutely done pretty solid so far in the 2022 season. He has shown a lot of promise and has shown a lot of speed in his time as a NASCAR Cup Series driver. And to me, I think he's absolutely the perfect choice to have in his car full-time. Again, I think at Trackhouse for the first year, they've been absolutely excellent, and they are getting all the assets as well. And they may end up becoming the number 2 team at currently at the Hendrick development plan. So to me, I think that we will 100% will see Daniel Suarez back in the car, and I think he'll do great things in the 2022 season. So, anyway, those are my updated 2022 NASCAR silly season predictions. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on so you're notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Support pages on the link description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your 2022 NASCAR silly season predictions? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.